Welcome to PSY 387, Social Psychology of Race and Ethnic Group Relations. Studies Section 1, Ethnicity and Race. Introduction. This lecture explains the general meaning of the concept of ethnicity and race. The basic distinctions and terminologies existing between them are clearly defined. Learning outcome in Studies Section 1. Learning outcome 1.1. Define and use correctly some of the key words printed in bold. Learning outcome 2.1. Define ethnicity and race. Learning outcome 3.1. Explain ethnic consciousness. Learning outcome 4.1. Mention 4 basic dissimilarities between ethnicity and race. Content. The concept of ethnicity is related to the Greek concept of ethnos, which refers to the people of a nation or tribe, and ethnikos, which stands for national. Hence, ethnicity refers to the ethnic quality or affiliation of a group which is normally characterized in terms of culture. Ethnicity represents a social group with a shared history, a sense of identity, geography, and cultural roots which may occur despite racial differences. Ethnicity shapes a group's culture, the foods, language, religion, music, and customs. These cultural mores often play a vital role in shaping how the group of people view, interpret, and interact with the world. Ethnic consciousness is a process by which an individual or community came to understand itself as separate or different from others. It has also been commonly referred to as the actual group conscientiousness that excluded or subordinated groups expressed. It involves special rituals and other patterns of behavior that are defined as the content of a group's ethnic culture. Ethnic culture relates to that set of material objects that are uniquely utilized by a particular ethnic group, so that ethnic groups become synonymous with the people who are members of that group or who practice that culture. Ethnicity was shaped as an intellectual concept and a mode of social analysis in the late 19th and 20th centuries. It is both a lived and an intellectual concept. When members of an ethnic group interact with each other, ethnicity becomes a means by which culture is transmitted. Ethnic-related variations include ethnic identity, discrimination, and bilingualism. Question. The process which involves special rituals and other patterns of behavior that are defined as the content of a group's ethnic culture is dash. A. Ethnic culture. B. Ethnicity. C. Ethnic consciousness. D. Race. The correct answer was C. Reason. The answer justifies the major patterns of behavior that are defined as the content of a group's ethnic culture. Options A and B were not correct because group conscientiousness does not relate to that set of material objects that are uniquely utilized by a particular ethnic group, nor refers to the ethnic quality or affiliation of a group which is normally characterized in terms of culture. Commonly inbred, geographic, isolated population. Race is generally defined in terms of physical characteristics such as skin color, facial features, hairstyle, which is commonly inbred. Geographic, isolated population. The meaning of race has changed over many centuries, but it is now generally accepted as something created by society. The American Anthropological Association's statement on race states, physical variations in the human species have no meaning except the social ones that humans put in them. While we may not be different biologically, the color of our skin is the most visible difference among us, and it affects the way we interact with each other. Racial encounters carry a long history of abuse, from colonization, which saw the establishment of a major group and minor group. Despite evidence that there is only one human race, with many variations of that one race, the term race generally assumes biological differences that are most evidenced in physical appearance, a kind of pseudo-subspeciation. Race is often associated socially or accompanied by stereotyping. Racism and prejudice deal with the forming of unfounded and often inaccurate opinions about a group, leading to biased behavior against members of that group. From the mistaken notion that humans may be divided into clearly defined racial groups and that these groups vary in capabilities and aptitudes, racism gives permission to individuals to treat racial groups differently. Race means a set of physical traits and culture with a form of consciousness. This also relates to a person's ancestral stock and including all traits, that is, physical and behavioral associated with membership in that race. To be of the Igbo race in the 19th century means that one's ancestors hailed from Igbo land, even if a person himself had never been to Igbo land. Question 2. Dash this with the forming of unfounded and often inaccurate opinions about a group, leading to biased behavior against members of that group. A. Stereotyping. B. Racism and prejudice. C. Ethnic culture. D. A kind of pseudo-subspeciation. The correct answer was B. Reason. The answer was because only racism and prejudice deals with the forming of unfounded and often inaccurate opinions about a group, leading to biased behavior against members of that group. Options A, B, and D were not correct because racism and prejudice most often were associated socially or accompanied by stereotyping and does not relate to that set of material objects that are uniquely utilized by a particular ethnic group. The answer was not D because racism and prejudice were not pseudo-subspeciation in kind. Ethnicity versus race. Race often suggests one's status within the social system and introduces power differences as people of different races interact with one another. Ethnicity, on the other hand, connotes common culture and shared meaning. It includes thoughts, perceptions, expectations, and actions of a group resulting from shared historical experiences. Thinking that a group of people was racially different and thus should be treated badly is a prejudicial thought and attitude, and anti-racism came to be defined as the elimination of such attitudes. Again, ethnic theory both describes the creation of social conflict and prescribed ways of overcoming such differences. Such prescriptions were then applied to the problems of racial discrimination and exclusion between white and non-whites. For instance, although it also formulated and reinforced a distinction between white and blacks in countries like United States, further exacerbating a false distinction between races as a physical trait and ethnicity as a cultural phenomenon. Question. Select the correct match to options below using culture, race, ethnic consciousness, and ethnicity. 1. Dash represent a social group with a shared history, a sense of identify, geographical or cultural root. 2. Dash is a process by which an individual or community came to understand itself as separate or different from others. 3. When members of an ethnic group interact with each other, ethnicity becomes a means by which dash is transmitted. 4. Dash is often defined in terms of physical characteristics such as skin color, facial features, hairstyle, which is common, or peculiarities of isolated population. Answers: Number 1. Ethnicity. Number 2. Ethnic consciousness. Number 3. Culture. Number 4. Race. Summary. In this section, you have learned about the concept of ethnicity and race. The concept ethnicity sprang up from two Greek words, ethnos, which refers to the people of a nation or tribe, and ethnikos, which stands for national. For ethnicity to exist, there must be a social group with ethnic quality or affiliation characterized in terms of culture, which must play vital roles in shaping how the group views, interprets, and interacts with the world. On the other hand, race as a concept is synonymous with people who are members of that group or who practice that culture. Therefore, the term race generally assumes biological differences that are most evidenced in physical appearance, a kind of pseudo-substantiation such as skin color, facial features, hairstyles, etc. More so, in any social group with a defined culture, an individual or the community understands himself or itself as separate or different from others through the concept ethnic consciousness. Besides, ethnic culture equally exists and refers to that set of material objects that are uniquely utilized by a particular ethnic group. This is the end of Studies Section 1. Thanks for listening.